Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the historic Landfair livery and the Conservancy's beautiful public meeting place, the Chaplain B. Barnes Reading Room. My name is Barbara Axmacher, and on behalf of the Board of Directors and staff of the Watch Hill Conservancy, we thank you for joining us tonight for this presentation, which we are proudly hosting for the Westerly Historical Society. And now I would like to introduce you to my colleague and friend, the president of the Westerly Historical Society, Tom Galuccia.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. And thank you to the Conservancy for hosting this event, and thank you to our sponsors. Barbara certainly has put in a lot of work to make this event happen. Our dear friends, Jen and Alan from Graysale Brewery and South County Distillery. Phenomenal folks that haven't turned down anybody in the community for any event. Please, if you invite in something that they're offering tonight, but please visit them down on Canal Street. They have a great little distillery and brewery down there and all kinds of fun things happening. And also, Jack Spratt is our presenter tonight, but many don't know he's a major sponsor of this event. He makes sure it happens with no expense to the society. So, your society, the Westerly Historical Society, was founded in 1913, so we're in our 112th year. We've been servicing the community by preserving and educating on Westerly's history. We've done that consistently. And last year, we undertook an ambitious project called Reflections. It's an oral history project. If you haven't seen it, please, you can go to our website and look it up. We've picked out some remarkable folks in Westerly. The criteria was very simple. You had to be born and raised in Westerly and 80 years young or older. So with that little disclaimer, I'm going to say we made an exception for Lois. And Mr. Potter and Carol were subjects of our Reflections program. If you have an opportunity, please look at it. You'll learn an awful lot about these folks, how they saw Westerly over the past 80 plus years. I've known some of these folks all my life, and I learned a great deal about it. It's been a very rewarding program. So the Westerly Historical Society, if you haven't become a member yet, we have some of these forms at our table. Our membership chair, Corey, is out there. I also have our Vice President and Archivist, Zach Garceau, with us this evening. Zach, and Mary Jo Gerard is with us. She's a recent new board member. She's here volunteering this evening, trying to gather up some support. One of the other things we're pushing on, now that we have a full-time professional archivist in Zach, is loading up on our archives. So we were a little afraid to ask for too much before because we didn't want to burden the poor guy. But now that he's earning his keep, we've reached out to a few folks. And just last week, Marion Burkhart turned over a collection that she had been nurturing since 1973. Over 50 years of collecting, mostly memorabilia from Watch Hill over the eras. And I can tell you, we've been going through this collection, and every time we pick up something else, it's an oh God moment. Like, can you believe this is in this collection? Oh my God, look at this photograph. Oh my God, look at this. A very well collected set of artifacts, and she was extremely generous in turning it over to the society. Our next goal is now to have a place that we can hang and open up a museum and share this with the general public. Right now, our archives are full. They're full of great and wonderful things, but we want you folks and everybody else to be able to enjoy these great and wonderful things. That's our next project, so stay tuned. On that, I will turn this show over almost a few minutes early. Jack will appreciate that. Since we've met Jack, and this is our third year doing this, I've learned that he's an amazing researcher. The stuff that he finds, we could actually set up sleeping bags tonight and not be done by the time he's done with the amount of information that he finds. And when he has to tailor down to fit this in an hour, he really puts aside a lot of great information. So You're going to get the creme de la creme tonight of everything that he's found about these great hotels. This is part one, mind you, so stay tuned for part two. I'm sure he's working on that for us. But without further ado, I'd like to welcome our friend and supporter, Jack Spratt.
So good evening. Thank you for coming here tonight. Thank you to Barbara and the Westerly Conservancy. Thomas, thank you in the Westerly Historic Society, and especially thank you to Alan and Jennifer of Graysale Brewing for their continued support for these type of historical programs. The subject of our talk tonight is the development of the fashionable seaside watering places along the 12-mile shoreline from the Thames River in Connecticut to Watch Hill, framed by the south Fisher's Island and the north the Connecticut shoreline, the boundary of 3 states. Part 1 covers the building and operation of these resorts before the Civil War and the dramatic growth thereafter. We conclude with the purchase of the old Foster Voss property by Tenafly Charles Everett, and his sale to the syndicate from Cincinnati, Ohio in 1886, the beginning of the cottage colony at Watch Hill. Part 2 will explore the Gilded Age of the seaside resorts, the development of the grandest of the grand seaside hotels, changes in transportation and holiday preferences of tourists, competition, the Great Fire of 1916, the Great Depression, and the 1938 hurricane, which led to the decline and loss of these great resorts, and finally, their rebirth as opulent seaside palatial luxurious hotels. My talk this evening would not be possible without the efforts of those who came before. To those who kept a diary, snapped a picture, wrote a news article, donated family images, postcards, artifacts, or documents to libraries, museums, or a historical society, and to the professional as well as the writers of local history. Thank you. One of the greatest needs of historical societies, like the Westerly Historical Society, is the funding for staff to catalog and digitize information to make it available to the public. I am not a historian. I am a storyteller running a wooden boat along a 25-mile shoreline of this historic region, from Watch Hill to New London for nearly 20 years now. My guest and I have traveled the waters of the Pawcatuck, the Mystic, the Thames Rivers, Fisher's Island Sound, Little Narragansett Bay, and the offshore waters, from Watch Hill to Block Island and the shores of Long Island Sound. In that time, I've spent years studying the history of this place with a simple goal of making sure my stories are based on facts, which has taken me on an incredible journey of my own. What has driven me is the not knowing, learning something new, and the aha moments. One of those times was when I was writing about the history of the Watch Hill Life Saving Station, sitting in the National Archives Records reading room, reading the log of the Watch Hill Life Saving Station. As I was reading the log, I turned a page, and tucked away in the folds of the logbook was a handwritten letter from Alexander Hamilton. To better understand why this end of Bay Street floods all the time, look closely at the left side of this early image of Watch Hill. This whole area was marshland up to the garages of the motor court. In 1870, the C. Maxon and Company, who were the builders of much of Watch Hill, filled this area to make way for a landing to store construction materials and equipment. The 19th century was a time of immense progress and significant challenges. It was a time of dramatic social change marked by the Civil War and economic uncertainty, with frequent booms and busts. This is a story of the emergence of early American tourism, its creation and simultaneous development from the shores of Watch Hill to the mountains of Vermont, New Hampshire, the islands of Maine, to the mineral springs and lakes of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Why and how did these seaside resorts form at approximately the same time? The majority of Americans in the 17th and 18th century and the first half of the 19th century, a vacation to the seashore was not even a dream. Only the wealthy had the money and the time to travel for leisure. American on holiday is not a local phenomenon. It represents the development of the tourism and hospitality industry. The word tour comes from the 17th and 18th century British aristocracy's grand tour, where primarily young men coming of age with a tutor would travel up to 4 years exploring Europe's significant cultural centers, particularly Italy, to gain exposure to art, classical history, and to different societies and customs. They were introduced to the European elite, establishing connections with families of similar social standing and economic status. The word tourist was used in America in the early 18th century as a slur. It demonstrated the contempt that local people had for people traveling who had time and money. The physician Richard Russell's dissertation on the use of seawater in the disease of the glands in 1752, with its slogan, "The sea washes away all the evils of mankind," became known far and wide for the miraculous cures from drinking seawater and bathing in the ocean. Seawater therapy included bathing early in the morning, drinking at least a half a pint of seawater, and a massage with freshly collected seaweed. Bathers were advised to pour seawater over their heads before entering the ocean to equalize the body temperature. The watering places were not only sought out for the relief of maladies of the body and spirit, but also places of pleasure and socialization. The term watering places referred initially to areas with mineral springs, where those concerned about their health would take the cure by drinking the waters of and taking therapeutic baths in mineral springs, a practice of the ancient Romans. This use of words, watering places, was used by the British to describe going to the seashore to breathe in the fresh sea air and plunge into the cold sea to revive the spirits and cure what was ailing them. By looking at seaside resorts, one can appreciate the impact of new means of transportation, technological innovations, the American attraction to novelty and fashions, and the changes in American attitudes towards nature, landscape, and the connection between architectural styles and cultural aspirations. Seaside resort development was a consequence of invention, innovation, and marketing. The invention and use of practical application of the steam engine to let trains and steamboats that reduced the time to travel from Boston to Westerly from 4 days to 6 hours. The development of steel, which replaced iron rails, fostered the expansion of the railroads, significantly improving safety. The creation of financial instruments to finance the development and expansion of the American tourism economy. The industrialization of New England and the agricultural revolution helped farmers to produce cash crops and to workers to reduce the hours spent in the field and at the factory, creating opportunities to pursue leisure, and for the first time, the creation of a middle class. As the population moved from rural farming communities to factory towns and cities seeking opportunity, European immigration significantly increased the population, creating a diverse and multicultural society, the great melting pot of America. The influence of these immigrants enabled the economy to grow dramatically, establishing distinct social classes and economic disparity, which in turn led to social unrest. For seashore communities with navigable harbors, it presented an opportunity, providing sanctuary for affluent families with similar economic and social backgrounds to escape to the shore. They were known as fashionable people, and they frequented fashionable seaside watering places. Prosperity also created excursionists or day trippers who, on their day off, took a train and a steamboat to the shore for relaxation, entertainment, and socialization. Dr. Joseph Warren met John Adams in 1768 when Adams made the 12-mile journey from his farm in Braintree to Boston on horseback during a smallpox outbreak. In the spring of 1771, Adams had successfully defended Captain Thomas Preston, the officer in command of the British soldiers involved in the Boston Massacre. A very unpopular and highly stressful defense. Adams, exhausted and anxious, from the outrage he endured by defending the British soldiers, was advised by his good friend Dr. Warren to take the waters of Stafford Springs, Connecticut. In June of 1771, Adams left Braintree alone and on horseback for the 4-day journey. In his words, quote, "I was advised to take a journey to the Stafford Springs in Connecticut, then in as much vogue as any mineral springs has ever been. I spent a few days in drinking the waters and made an excursion through Somers and Winders down to Hartford, and the journey was of use, whether the waters were or not. George Washington and Thomas Jefferson sought relief from rheumatism in the medicinal waters of the Berkeley Springs in West Virginia, known as America's first spa. The mineral springs attracted visitors seeking cures of all type, including Cupid's disease, venereal disease. Dr. Warren, as you probably know, died from a gunshot wound to the head at the Battle of Bunker Hill on June 17, 1777. There were 20 seaside resorts from New London to Eastern Point, Groton, Fisher's Island, Ram Island, Stonington, Osbrook or Pawcatuck Point, and Watch Hill. The early economic growth of this region was largely due to the impact of trade with the Sugar Islands. The towns of Newport, Hartford, Wethersfield, and Norwich were part of the West Indies plantation goods trade. Newport, as early as 1720, became a watering place for wealthy planters of Charleston and Barbados to escape the sickly season. The planters made an annual pilgrimage to the shores of Narragansett Bay, booking passage aboard packet ships and headed north with sugar and molasses to Newport, which at the time was the largest distiller of spirits in the country. Their ships went to Providence to trade sugar and molasses for plantation goods, up until the Civil War. Newport was known as a southern watering place. The first seaside hotel in Newport was the Bellevue, opened in 1828, providing an unprecedented level of hospitality, comfort, and luxury in the city by the sea. In 1839, George Noble Jones, a Savannah planter, built the first opulent summer cottage at Newport. Before the railroads and steamship companies organized packaged excursions along their routes, the traveler had to search and book transportation and lodging on their own. Relying on word of mouth or recommendations from strangers, packaging experience was a major driver of the development of tourism. The steam trains and steamboats were essential in the development of the shore resorts. The Norwich steamer Fanny was an early steamboat that would travel the Thames River. In 1828, the Fanny transported excursionists to Fisher's Island, New York, and the owners, the Winthrops, exacted a landing fee. The first rail connecting Boston to Norwich and the steamboats to the seashore was the Norwich and Worcester Railroad, established in 1834. The railroad was extended from Norwich south to Allen's Point and Gales Ferry in 1843 to improve the connecting steamboat operations and because the harbor in Norwich froze in the winter. Norwich Harbor. Norwich during this period had more millionaires per capita than any city in the country. This wealth was derived from a combination of being a railroad hub and deep water port. Norwich was a center of Sugar Island plantation goods trade. Norwich investors were very much involved in financing shoreline hotels. The steamer Water Lily was typical of the excursionist steamboats. A day tripper could arrive by train from Worcester, Massachusetts, catch the 8 a.m. boat, arrive in New London at 9, Mystic, or what you know as Ram Island, at 10, Stonington at 10:30, and Watch Hill at 11. They could stay for 2 hours at the Watch Hill beach and be back in Norwich by 4:30. This is Norwich Harbor. And there was two kinds of steamboats, the big steamboat like you see here, and then the smaller steamers that went along the rivers and from Stonington into Watch Hill. New London, the whaling city, was another wealthy town. It was the second largest whaling port in the world in the 1840s and 50s. It was also an important part of the West Indies provisioning plantations good trade. Fisher's Island on the south coast of Rhode Island and New London County, Connecticut, were vast plantations specifically designed to support the needs of the plantation owners. They were measured in square miles. New London was a key link in the transportation of tourists to the seaside resorts. This image is the pier in 1881. The New London-based Pequot and Ocean Transit Company began operating small excursion boats called the Osprey, Signet, and Gypsy. And then this is the steamer Worcester, which is on its way from Norwich to New York. In order for the train, when the railroad went south, there was actually a barge that went across the Thames River that carried the train. And then this is the harbor in all the different waterfront piers of the New York Hartford Railroad, the Central Vermont Railroad line, and the New London line. The Pequot House was built in 1853. A cottage followed in 1866. The ownership and management was associated with the Crocker House in the center city of New London. New London was known at the time as the yachting capital of the country. It was a station of the New York Yacht Club. Here, the locations of the hotels. New London, we had the Pequot. At Eastern Point, the Ocean House opened in 1840. The Edgecombe was built nearby in 1882, and the Fort Griswold House in 1885. On Fisher's Island, the Bayview opened in 1879, and the Mansion House Hotel in 1877. Osprey Beach in New London was an excursion resort where people would come for the day. It was famous for its shore dinners. When the Osprey closed, the building and furniture were floated to Mystic Island or Ram Island. And this is what one of the banquet halls look like. The Edgecombe in Fort Griswold House. Upon this land, the greatest of the hotels along the coastline was built much later. We'll talk about that in section 2. Fisher's Island was in the Winthrop family from 1644 until it was sold to Robert Fox in 1863. 3 generations up until the point of its leasing. The 3 establishments before the cottage colony development were the Bayview, the Mansion House, and the Lyles Beach Hotel. The Bayview was a boarding house where old whalemen from New London worked at odd jobs, and other guests probably there for either working on the farms, Fisher's Island was a large stock farm, or in building buildings. The Mansion House was originally a modest house used by the island's caretaker. The Winthrop family leased the land to tenant farmers. In 1863, upon the Winthrop sale of the island to Robert Fox, the house was renovated into what became known as the Fox Mansion House. After Fox died in 1871, his wife, Eliza, his widow working with her son-in-law, James Lyles, converted the mansion into an inn. This is the back of it. There's a post office right there. Lyles Beach was backed by Norwich money. The grand opening July 1st in 1882. The steamer Ella and Block Island steamer stopped at Lyles Beach 2 times a day, landing up to 300 day trippers for swimming, dancing, clam bakes, shore dinners, and drinking. She had the capacity for 800 people. Attractions included a small riding track with ponies, a bowling alley, a billiard room, a photo gallery, an arcade, a merry-go-round, and a shooting gallery. The day newspaper reported Lyles Beach had a dining room that could seat 600 and had 40 guest rooms. During this period, Lyles Beach was the only place on the Sound to get a drink on Sundays. By 1886, the resort was in financial trouble and was sold at auction. In June 1889, Edmund and Walter Ferguson purchased 9/10 of Fisher's Island for $25,000. In 1889, the Fergusons finally were able to buy the Lyles Beach Hotel for $10,000. They closed the hotel, rebuilt it in 1892 as a new fashionable hotel. The Fergusons were able to ban excursion boats and day trippers, which is still true today. Ram Island, as you know it, had many names. It was called Goat and Ram by the Winthrop family. It was called Bradley's Island up until 1846. It was called Mystic Island, and then finally it was called Ram Island. It wasn't until the mid-1800s that it was decided that the island was actually not in New York, but in Connecticut. A bare-fisted, illegal 41-round prize fight took place on the island in 1877. The conveniences and facilities for sea bathing are unsurpassed, while the island commands a fine view of Noank, Mystic, Stonington, and Fisher's Island. For beauty and picturesqueness, it is unrivaled by any watering places. The Norwich steamer Angelina, Captain Lovell, visits the island on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. I think the most interesting history of the island was when a smallpox hospital was built on the island in 1773. Dr. John Loomis and Dr. Phil Turner and Daniel Lee opened a smallpox isolation hospital on Mystic Island. Dr. Loomis was arrested in Norwich in 1774, and the Noank community came out and burned the buildings to the ground. John Adams' physician, Dr. Warren, was like other physicians at the time, where the patient would be infected with a small amount of the virus, and they would let their immune system build up a resistance, which required the patient to be observed and isolated for 7 days. George Washington, as you probably remember, ordered the inoculation of his Continental Army during the Army troops against smallpox in February of 1777. This was a critical decision because during the American Revolutionary War, because smallpox was a major threat to the Army's strength. Washington's order resulted in the first mass inoculation program in American history. The Mystic Island House was first built by a Mr. Bowen and a Mr. Burroughs in 1855. It was sold to a William McClune, who called it the Noank House in 1858. Three steamboats from Norwich, New London, Westerly, and Watch Hill landed several times a day. Mystic Island offered lots of activities including bathing, fishing, dancing, bowling, croquet, lectures, promenading, and yachting. There was a dancing pavilion, a photographic studio, bowling lanes, and fishing excursions. The dangers of steamboat transportation were real. About 5 a.m. on August 30th, 1872, the Metis, on an overnight journey from New York to Providence, Rhode Island, in high seas, was collided with the Nettie Cushing, a schooner out of Thomaston, Maine. Of the estimated 150 souls on board, the Metis fatalities are estimated to be about 70, with only 22 victims identified. Approximately 48 others are thought to have perished aboard the ship as it sunk. The wreck of Commodore Vanderbilt's Atlantic out of Norwich on Fisher's Island had a crippled boiler in the early morning of 1846, November. The powerless Atlanta was driven by a gale towards Fisher's Island, dragging her anchors. At 4:30 on November 27th, the last anchor cable snapped, and she smashed into the rock at the base of North Hill on Fisher's Island. Approximately 42 of the 78 people on board perished. The exact count will never be known, as passenger logs carried on board boats was lost at sea. The collision of the steamship Narragansett and Stonington. The Narragansett left North River, which is the Hudson River, pier in New York City at 5 p.m. on June 11, 1880, bound for Stonington, Connecticut. Her sister ship, the SS Stonington, left the steamboat dock in Stonington shortly after 9:30 p.m., bound for New York. Dan Larkin, the owner of the Larkin House and one of the heroes of the Metis disaster, was on board the Narragansett when they collided. The boats were unknowingly on a collision course The subsequent tragedy involving the Stonington and the Narragansett resulted in the death of dozens, massive destruction, and a media frenzy. Because of the concerns from the dangers of steaming out into the Atlantic Ocean, Block Island Sound, then into Long Island Sound through the turbulent and treacherous race called the Horse Race, this was called the outside or ocean route. Stonington, Connecticut became the terminus of the Providence to Stonington Railroad with an inside passage through the calm waters of Fisher's Island Sound into Long Island, avoiding the ocean and the race, known as the inside, the preferred route from Boston to New York. This is a close-up of Stonington and Watch Hill, and you can see the Sandy Point running out. All the islands of Long Island Sound were part of New York until the mid-1880s. It was only resolved because of the demands of watermen seeking ground permits and the localities not sure if the waters were in Connecticut or New York. At Stonington, having repelled the British during the Revolutionary War and the War of 1812 and 1814, the Wattawattack House was built in 1837 to support the Providence and Stonington Railroad. They actually built an exact replica in Providence. There was also another hotel there, the Steamboat American Hotels in 1839. In 1837, the Stonington-Providence Railroad was built. By 1850, the Wattawattack House of Blake and Reed was known as one of the most delightful retreats. 4 stories, 21 feet by 50 feet, an observatory on top. A correspondent of the New York Express paper thought it was the perfect place as a summer resort he had ever visited. The Wattawattack Female Institute opened from 1857 to 1862. In 1863, the hotel reopened, renovated, and expanded, serviced by the railroad and steamships from New York, Norwich, New London, including the Ella, the Water Lily, the Tiger Lily. Using the steamers Water Lily, Watch Hill, Dashing Waves, and Watch Hill, the Stonington to Watch Hill trip only took 15 minutes. If you're not, this is the library in Stonington, that's where the hotel was. This is the turnaround for the trains and where the fishermen piers are in Stonington today. This route was paused in 1860, and in 1867 it was the route was reopened. Political issues. This is a picture looking down where the trains came right through Stonington, right out onto the pier, and you can see the steamboats at the dock. This shows you the rail and the turnabout. In 1868, the Dixon House was opened as a summer hotel by Babcock and Moss in Westerly. They had a sidewheel steamer called Belle, which was purpose-built to bring guests to Watch Hill. This hotel was built as a summer resort hotel, even though it was open year-round. The boat was 113 feet long and 36 feet wide and had a draft of only 28 inches. She was designed with a flat bottom like a scow to make it over what's called Kenyon's Bar, which is right down by where the cemetery is. Even so, when it was low tide, she would ground. The captains of that were the brothers Sylvester and Isaac Gavitt. The summer guests had use of the boat free. The boat would make 2 trips down to the beach and back. If the public wanted to go, it cost them 40 cents. The Belle ran on this route for 13 years and could accommodate crowds up to 1,200 people. When the Metis sank or collided and came ashore, the parts of it came ashore on East Beach, everybody wanted to go down and see the wreck, and so these steamers were overloaded. When the steamer came back, there were so many people on it that the paddle wheel on the one side was out of the water. In 1882, the Julia replaced the bell. This is a picture, if you look closely, on the upper part of the river, where the Julia, built by the Greenman brothers, docked along the river at the head of the Pawcatuck. There was another steamer that came back and forth called the Wachamoke, also ran the Pawcatuck in the 1880s. So we're talking about steamers that went from out into the ocean to New York, back to Stonington, to New London, to Norwich, and then these smaller steamers, they went up the rivers. As many of you know, if you have a boat, it's fairly shallow coming up the Pawcatuck, more so now than ever. This is an early photograph of just where Main Street is, up by the bridge. And you can see the Sadie to the left, and you can see the large schooners that are at the wharf there. In order for those boats to go up and down the river, they literally had to either be towed or they had to kedge them up, meaning they'd have to throw an anchor out, pull it up, throw an anchor out, pull it up again. And this is the steamer Surf City coming up the river. And this is Sadie. This is where the laundry is, on the corner of Main and Margin Street. That's that building there. It's still there. Now this is the most interesting boat. This is the Golden Star that came all the way up the river. And if you notice, it has two helm stations. It has one forward and one back, and two controls. This boat was unable to turn around at the upper part of the river, and so the captain would walk the beam from one end to the other. This is the steamboat, the G.R. Kelsey at Watch Hill Landing. And then you can see the Ella leaving the Watch Hill Wharf. And what's interesting here is that the actual channel wasn't where it is today. The channel went straight out from the dock. And then you have the shore dinner. The Watch Hill Lighthouse was built in 1807, 1808 by a New London carpenter by the name of Woodward. The keeper's cottage was a one-story, five-room wooden structure similar to the one depicted here. Jonathan Nash was born in 1765. He died in 1846 at the age of 81. He was a shipmaster and a coastal ship pilot before he named as the first keeper of the Watch Hill Lighthouse at age 43. Nash married Betsy Mitchell in 1779 or 1785, I'm not sure, and she passed away a year after Jonathan. They had 10 children. They had 8 boys and 2 girls, and probably someone in the room is related to the Nashes, and certainly a very large family. The Nash's lighthouse salary was $200 a year. So when you think about that, he bought 61 acres of land over the time that he was the lighthouse keeper, and $200 a year with 10 kids just doesn't add up, does it? And so Betsy would serve shore dinners, because most of the people that went to Watch Hill back then were local people. And she was known for that. Jonathan would fish and do odd jobs to make extra money. But it's really amazing to me how frugal they must have been, how hardworking they were, and how entrepreneurial they were to have the cash to purchase the acres of 61 acres from East Beach to the bay. The lighthouse keeper's house was replaced in 1856. This is a document I found at the National Archives. There was another one of these. I posted it online, and Esty picked it up, and now you can buy it. I'm sorry, let me just go back. So this is what the sketch was for the keeper's cottage, and they built it as they designed it. And this is a view of the lighthouse and the barn. which was part of the lighthouse. Just as an aside, when the life-saving service, which was then the Coast Guard, wanted to build a new station, they had to go to Congress because the lighthouse was a different government agency, and they wouldn't give up the land for the new life-saving station. So, I mean, if you notice, there's some themes in here about immigration and about the other issues. Well, another issue is that Jonathan Nash lost his job when the Jackson administration came in, which was a major shakeup of every government worker. When he built the Watch Hill House, which if you look in this photograph, it's the three, this is an expansion of it. But I believe this was the original part of it, and then this was added on. The Watch Hill House was built by a gentleman by the name of Green. This is a picture looking from where Taylor Swift's house is. There's a close-up with people. Now here's the interesting part. Jonathan Nash was 68 years old when he had the rooming house built. This is an advertisement in May of 1834. And Jonathan Nash is trying to have someone lease the building, the hotel from him. It appears that he went into partnership with a gentleman by the name of Joseph Hyde of Norwich. From my research, I am convinced that he never actually ran the boarding house. Even though he built it, I don't think he ever ran it. So who did? So this is a notification in 1844 where his son, Joseph Nash, has taken charge of the Watch Hill House. It appears that it was neglected when he took it over. And then this is when Nelson Brown ran the Watch Hill House. He was from Stonington. And then finally, George Nash took over in 1847. Nash sold the property in 1865. And talk about land speculation, he made $40,000 on the sale of the property. In April of 1865, plans were approved to enlarge the Watch Hill House at a cost of approximately $5,000. Again, in 1873, Hale and Company added a wing 120 feet long and as part of an extensive renovation. Hale had a winter hotel in St. Augustine in 1877 as well. In 1872, many hotels were dry as a result of the temperance movement. This is a quote, "A man is never asked to drink. He tells his wife he is going to the Avery as he has been invited to come see the owls." The Ocean House, as I'm sure you know, was known as Saint's Retreat. The Larkin House, not so much. This is Watch Hill in 1870, and you can see that you have the Plimpton House, you have the Nash, Joseph Nash, the York House, the Crandall Cottage, then you have the Captain Dickens, and then you have the Narragansett, the Atlantic, the Watch Hill, and the Larkin House. Now this is a close-up a little bit later. So this is, if you're interested, I'm happy to make it available to you, but this is the dates and the owners of all the different hotels in Watch Hill. There was 6 major hotels in total. There were a lot of other hotels or inns, but the big ones, there was 6 of them. In 1875, Watch Hill had 7 hotels. The Larkin, which could handle 250 guests. The Watch Hill House, that could handle 125. The Atlantic, that could handle 80. the Plimpton 75, the Narragansett 60, and the Bayview 60. Watch Hill had the capacity to accommodate 775 guests. The steamer Ella could deliver 800 passengers, and the steamer Block Island even more. This is probably the earliest image that I have of Watch Hill. And from left to right is the original Plimpton house. Then you have the livery. You've got the Dickens. The Maxim Company had a very major role to play in the development of the hotels here. They built the Ocean House, the Atlantic House, which was in 1856, the Plimpton House, which was just after the Civil War in 1867, 68, and the Bayview. These are different images you can see. In this image, you have the steamer. So you can see how the harbor was and how there's no trees and how everything was wide open. And this is Fort Road. In 1884, the Watch Hill House and Crocker House were owned by A.R. Hale. And the quote was, "The tables first class every way." So this advertisement was for local people to come for dining. The Larkin House had 260 rooms, a telegraph, and it was lit with gas. This next one was the Atlantic House, a table first class, prices are reasonable. And then the Shore Dinner House, which was owned by Larkin and Smith, having enlarged dining room, double the capacity. And then the Plimpton House. The Plimpton House and the Dickens were purchased by the same company, and they went bankrupt. And I'll explain that a little bit further on when Andrew Plimpton went bankrupt. In this advertisement in 1884, the property is owned by the Westerly Savings Bank. At that time, both of those properties could accommodate 250 guests. It also had the only spring in Watch Hill. Everyone else had to collect rainwater and then they used charcoal to filter it. And it also had an advanced septic sewage treatment program. Basically, they actually had flush tanks. So the flush tanks would fill up and then they would wait for high tide and then they would take and release it. And that's why Watch Hill was known when you came in on the steamers of the floaters that were in the harbor. George Nash sold the land for the schoolhouse to the town in 1852, and then he gifted the land for the Union Chapel in 1876. Most of this, by the way, is still underneath the chapel, and I can tell you that because when we had a very big storm here, smoke detectors went off way up in the top there, and I had the privilege to crawl up and crawl all through the top of this, which was very, very interesting because you figure you get into the top of a structure, it's going to be a flat area. Well, I climbed up and down all of that. So Nathan Nash built the Narragansett in 1845, which is where the Watch Hill Inn is now. And believe it or not, if you look at this, that structure is the oldest structure of a hotel in Watch Hill. It's been obviously renovated many, many times, but the basic guts of the structure are actually there. The inn was considered the best run hotel in Watch Hill. When Nathan passed away, his wife continued the tradition of excellence. In 1871, according to the Springfield Republican, Watch Hill was enjoying an unusually prosperous season. Governor James Howard had purchased the site between the Watch Hill House and the Larkin to build a cottage. So that's kind of one of the first cottages that were built, and that's now we're starting to move towards the development of Watch Hill, away from a hotel community, more towards a hybrid. The next hotel is the Atlantic House, which was built in 1856. In August, unfortunately, in 1862, the proprietor, O.S. Spencer, lost his only son, a 9-year-old boy, who was playing in the harbor on different boats that were docked, and he lost his footing and fell in the harbor and unfortunately drowned. In 1874, the C.W. Johnson and Company of Norwich leased the Atlantic House. So you can start to see the relationship between the money that was in Norwich and the development of the properties in Watch Hill. This is looking down from the top of the hill. It's called Olympic Way now, but this is actually the main thoroughfare. When people got off the ferries, they would come up by the Olympia Tea Room, and they would go up, and there was curiosity shops and the Atlantic House, later the Columbia House, and then these are the cottages that were built there. Now this is at the top of Bluff Avenue looking down Plimpton, and this is the Plimpton House, and then across the street you can see the Dickens Inn, and then you can see the Narragansett House. Now next to across the street from the Plimpton House, they built the Bayview House, which was later then called the Plimpton Annex. Andrew Plimpton was from Hartford. He ran the American Hotel in Hartford, and he contracted to build originally the 4-story hotel, 35 feet by 80 feet. He was also manager of the Dixon House in Westerly. The Dixon Inn, Bayview, Plimpton House, with an addition, became part of the post office. You can see the post office right here. The house has just been renovated. Unfortunately, Andrew Plimpton decided to expand and purchase other properties. And there was the great financial crisis of 1873. And that financial crisis was originally called the Great Depression until the real depression came around. And it lasted for 10 years. And at that time period, he had mortgaged the properties, and the actual occupancy was not great. And so he actually declared bankruptcy. In 1886, William Hill, the manager of hotels in Springfield, Mass., became the owner and the proprietor of the Plimpton, the Dickens, and then the Bayview. This is looking at the, to the left is the original Watch Hill House that was moved across the street, the Ocean House, and then you can see the top of the bowling alley. The Larkin House, Dan Larkin was a lighthouse keeper from 1861 to 1868. Again, the question is, how did he come up with the money to buy the land from Nash, and how did he have the money to build the building? So my guess is, I haven't found anything to prove this, but my guess is he had investors. So this is what the building looked like when it was being built. And the importance of this is these were stick buildings that basically did not have any fire stops. And so fire was a major problem, a major reason why these hotels were lost. And Larkin also had a hotel in Florida, which burned down as part of a major fire in that town. And so he was very, very concerned about the Larkin House burning down. And that was one of the reasons why he sold it in 1906. So this is with the two cupolas, and the second part of this was built, was 100 feet, and was built in 1886. And then you can see the mounds here. The top of that blew off in the '38 hurricane. So it looked like in 1881. This is an advertisement for it. And this is his other hotel in Florida. This is a view from the Ocean House looking at the Larkin House. And this is the Ocean House, the original Ocean House. It was built in 1867 and 68 by the Maxon Company, and it was built for Captain George Nash. And this was on the site of the family cemetery. The cemetery, actually, the bodies were removed in somewhere around, I think, 1857 or something by a relative of the Nashes to Riverbend Cemetery. Sure looks different today, huh? This is when it's had one of its additions. It's a different view. And this is when Champlin owned the property. Now, this is a view from Sunset Hill looking back. So up to the left, you have the Ocean House, you have the chapel, the new Watch Hill House, and then you have to the right, you have the Plimpton House expansion, and then behind that, you have the Narragansett. So this is the steamer G.R. Kelsey. It's now called, in this picture, the Margaret. And this was the boat that the actual pier on the ocean side, which I'll show you a picture later. This was the boat that it was originally built for. It wasn't built for the Block Island steamer, but this boat was not really good for going out into Block Island Sound to Block Island. So a year later, the owners, which were based in New London, had the Block Island built. And here's the Block Island is coming into the wharf. Now this wharf was destroyed by ice twice. Now this is a picture of the Block Island, and I'm showing you this just because it's really incredible how many people are on the boat. And this happens to be spectators for the Harvard-Yale race. And here's the shore dinners. And then this is the Fat Man's Club. And then the Larkin Brothers proprietors. Osbrook Grove, also known as Pawcatuck Point, which is right at the confluence, the end of the river and the beginning of Little Narragansett Bay. This was a really interesting area. It was originally sacred grounds for the Native Americans. Then it was used for locals to come down for picnics. The church would come down on Sundays with a barge, and they would spend the day there. It also had what's called a casino, which was bowling, billiards, drinking, dancing. And the steamboat would come down from Westerly. Now, you have to realize at the time, Rhode Island was dry and Connecticut was wet. And so the steamboat operators coming down would be always concerned about people being drunk coming back into Westerly Landing. And they had a special signal to the constable when they had people on board that either had liquor or were drunk. In one case, a couple, husband and wife, were drunk and got in a fight, and the police were waiting for them at the wharf, and they dove off the boat, and they swam to the Connecticut side to avoid getting arrested. Now, this started in the mid-1840s, so it was very early. And in 1877, they lost the lease. This was a lease from the Davis farm, the Davis family. And so what they did is they packed everything up, put it on a barge, and then they floated it across the bay to Napattree. And that's where the least known hotel in Watch Hill, the Peninsula House, was. And these are some very rare photographs. That's in the middle there. That is the Peninsula House, right there. Right there. This is Sandy Point. That's the breakwater, the outer breakwater of Stonington. And that's, you notice this, there was a house on top of Napattree Point. This photograph is somewhere around the 1890s, maybe the 1880s. And this is a different view of it, looking back. And then this is the actual bathing beach was where the club cabanas are now. And this shows you, off in the distance, you can see the Peninsula House. And then you can see, what's interesting is how high the dunes are here. And Jonathan Nash said that before the 1815 hurricane, if you stood over by where the dune is now, that Napattree was fairly straight. And you can see even in this picture how much more the Napattree is rolled over on itself, creating that big kind of loop. And I'm going to finish up with this. This is the steamboat dock in Stonington. This is what's called the Watch Hill dock. It's where Dotson's is now. And these are people getting on the steamboat. This is the steamboat Watch Hill. This is her underway. And again, look at all the people on board. And then she's coming into Watch Hill, and then you have a big catboat and 3 captains talking. And then this is her. And then coming into the landing up in the top, you can see the hotels right there. And that's it.